In order to get CLE credits, you have to listen for the secret word. It will be repeated twice during the video presentation. And sometime during the original presentation, Karen CORSI gave a secret code, and she announced it and may have even held up a sign. And you need that code as well. So there's two codes: the secret word, which is audio only, repeated twice, and the one where Karen CORSI said it on the day of the presentation. Jot them down as you listen. You obviously have to pay attention. Good luck. Good to kind of see everybody. My name is Joe Del Russo. I just saw some of you, I don't know, 10 days ago, and I'm back. We did that memory on trial with Dr. Jason Dickinson from Montclair State University. And today we're going to do something that's really near and dear to my heart because it has to do with computers and geekery and things like that. I have no specialized training in computers, and, I have a basic knowledge, but I like to play around with them, and I try to keep up on the latest technological advancements. And this is a really big one. This is a sea change. This is something that can change everything for real. And it's hard to overstate what the future impact of artificial intelligence is going to be. It really is. And I am going to share what I know with you today, and help you understand how you can use this right away, I think, and avoid problems in the future, though, because for all of its wonder, there are many perils. There's no doubt about it. And some of you may have played around with it already, and it's really magic. You'll see in a couple of minutes how magical it is. On the other hand, you can get into real big trouble if you don't use it correctly and you're not vigilant and you're not paying attention. So, with that opening, I'm going to begin to share the PowerPoint, and we'll get to work and we'll try to figure out what this AI stuff is, and and how it might add value to your practice. I've used it quite a few times in my practice, and other times just messing around and playing around with it. So let's open up the PowerPoint. The name of this is Algorithms and Advocacy, Navigating AI Ethics in the Legal World. I fancy myself a bit of a wordsmith. I like to write. Maybe my writing at times is sophomoric. I think it's pretty good. But I went to the ChatGPT and I said, give me a title for lawyers where I'm going to deliver some information about artificial intelligence. I want it to be clever. It came up with this: Algorithms and Advocacy. I said, I'll take it. And that's how I got this. In fact, quite a few times I used AI to prepare for this program. So let's see what it's all about. Resources. The reason I put this up is you'll see a lot of the action in artificial intelligence is from the past 18 months. And there's a reason for that, because it's only been 2 years since ChatGPT set the world on fire, okay? At least the technological world on fire. So by the time that the Supreme Court and the New Jersey State Bar Association and the like caught up, it was 2024. And the other reason I give you these resources is, Karen can put these in the chat later. I'll send a copy in the chat later. But the reason I give them to you is because this is the latest on it. There's much better expressions of how this all works from persons who are expert in artificial intelligence. So these are the primary sources I relied upon. Many of my bullet points are copied and pasted right from some of these articles. So you need to know that in advance. These are the primary sources. They're good ones. I've read every one of them cover to cover. And as you notice, they're all from 2024. In fact, the Supreme Court just issued one in July, and there's one in August as well. So take a look at those. There's 2 pages of them, and you'll see them at the end again. I just wanted to let you know what we're relying upon. You can see Justice Rabner and Judge Grant will be talking about their notice to the bar. We'll be talking about the State Bar Association, our parent group, if you will, down in New Brunswick. They put out a manifesto on the use of artificial intelligence in the law. I'll tell you all about that. Don't you worry. And then the judiciary, as recently as July 24, as I said a moment ago, delivered a paper for the judges. And I'll tell you something. They used to go to Lowe's Glen Point. I don't know where they are this week. The judges go to judges school this week, right? I still think they do that. Rest assured that somebody's delivering the last bullet point there, guidance for the courts. Got to teach the judges, right? So I'll try to teach you a little bit, the basics, but somebody's teaching the judges as I speak, I suspect. What is artificial intelligence? This is the black letter definition. It refers to machine-based systems that can make predictions, recommendations, or decisions. AI systems use machine and human-based inputs to perceive environments, abstract such perceptions into models through automated analysis, and use model inferences to formulate opinions. Huh? Well, that's why we call it black letter, right? Black letter is the rule from Blackstone or Lord Ellenborough, right? This is what the black letter definition is. We'll try to distill it, dumb it down a bit in a moment. Let's start by going to the beginning. Who coined this term? Well, this guy, John McCarthy, famous in academia. He's a math professor at Dartmouth. He's a rock star. And he coined the term generative AI. You may hear these terms tossed about on television. You may hear me mention them once in a while, generative AI and large language models, LLM. And that's not the degree you get when you get out of law school if you want a master's in law. It's a little different. LLM are large language models. Basically, what that means is they took these rather sophisticated algorithms and they sucked up, they vacuumed the internet. Now, there's a lot of controversy now about whether copyright protections were followed, whether you stole our stuff, but essentially the LLM sucked the internet, but they sucked it into an algorithm that has almost the ability of the human mind. I say almost, that's the operative word. Almost the ability of the human mind to take the large language model and make sense of it and deliver answers to us when we ask natural language questions. Generative AI is another term you'll hear. That's the name for the little different kinds of things that AI can do. AI can generate text. I'm going to show you in a minute. I hope it works, because I know when Elon Musk was showing off his Cybertruck, he said it was smash proof, and somebody took a sledgehammer to it and the window broke. I'm going to do some real-time AI with you in a minute, and I'm going to show you how it generates text. You can write a poem, you can write a short story, and I'll tell you, it happens in seconds. It's just mind-boggling. You can generate images. I'll show you how that works real quick. I did a logo for my friend Fred Artist's daughter's small business yesterday. She loves it. I did it in 10 seconds on the bus coming back from South Carolina. It's just amazingly powerful. Generative AI is the things that AI can do. It can generate text, it can generate images and other media, and it can generate contracts and protocols and policies and procedures and HIPAA waivers and fee arrangements and fee agreements. We'll talk all about that in a moment. But that's the language. Until very recently, AI, and I'm talking about 5 years ago, it did very narrow things. It was really in the math departments, and it was in the tech departments at Stanford and NYU and in those programs. It didn't catch the public's imagination until ChatGPT went public, and Microsoft invested, I think, $10 billion in those geeks who are billionaires now, and you can't imagine the wealth that the founders of ChatGPT will make. But as recently as 5 years ago, you couldn't do very much with it unless you were a geek. Today, AI rules are increasingly broad, right? AI innovations can include self-driving cars, diagnostic assistance to help hospital clinicians, and autonomous self-directed weapon systems. Wow, there's some variability for you, right? But you might say, I don't want my doctor's PA making medical decisions for me. Well, we'll talk about how that kind of could work. I don't think our clients want us, lawyers, making legal decisions using AI, but it's a good start. AI knows things you couldn't possibly know. The thing is, you have to see whether it's sincere, whether it makes sense, whether it fits into whatever you need to do. You need to exercise oversight. If I could distill this program into one word for lawyers and AI, it's oversight. oversight, okay? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Of course, some AI programs can attempt to solve complex math problems, and they can imitate conversational English. That's what's so much fun about it, and also a little bit creepy. It can explain concepts and write simple yet often nuanced sentences. So the promise of AI includes some of the things I just told you, but more than that, there are chatbots that are available online that can answer complex questions. Now if you go on United, the United app, and you need a refund because your flight was 7 hours late, you get a chatbot. It can't communicate with you in a way that makes sense. I almost invariably have a question, and that chatbot is a mess. I want a real person. I press 0, give me a real person. The chatbots are going to be better than real persons. Oh yeah, that's right, Del Russo. Trust me, they will. They will, because they have all the accumulated United Airlines intelligence there, and they can understand the nuances of the English language. They can write poetry. Some of it's pretty good. And even mimic human emotions, chatbots. You've seen some of these things in the newspapers where adolescent boys fell in love with chatbots. We'll talk about the downside in a minute. But the promise of AI is what we're talking about now. By allowing computers to better recognize objects and make predictions, artificial intelligence plays an important role in robotics, automated transportation, natural language processing, telecommunication routing, and other areas. What are the real live uses we can use it for? I told you some of them before. Legal questions, you can make a logo, which I did yesterday, write a short story, you can sum up an article. I didn't do this, but I could have taken these 75-page law review articles and said, sum it up. And I've done that in the past. I always go back to the article, oversight. I always go back to the article to make sure it didn't miss anything. It's a good start. I'll add something, I'll delete something, but 80% of the work is done, man. I got bullet points, I have a narrative, I have an introductory section, I have a conclusion. It's pretty darn good. Oversight, though, don't simply rely upon that. So I'm going to show you how it works now. I'm going to have a little fun. I think Chuck Festa's in the room. I saw his name pop up a minute ago. There he is. I see him in the right-hand corner. But just before we do that, I want to tell you the tools that I'm using. If you've never used AI before or don't know much about it, the thing you want to download or just go to the website is ChatGPT. It's free, but you're getting yesterday's version. Yesterday's version is pretty powerful. I pay $20 a month. I get the turbocharged version, right? There are different flavors of ChatGPT. There's ChatGPT for lawyers. There's ChatGPT for doctors. Smart people and people who want to get really rich have taken ChatGPT and then calibrated it in a way that speaks to whatever audience they want ChatGPT to be sold to. ChatGPT is a generative large language model artificial intelligence program. I'm going to open it up in a minute. There are others, though. Microsoft put $10 billion into ChatGPT, so they use ChatGPT to use something called Copilot. You can download Copilot. It's free. They use almost the best version of ChatGPT, Copilot. You can put it on your phone. Just go to the Google Play or the App Store, download Copilot. Anthropic uses Claude, not Clause. I misspelled that. Amazon just added another $6 billion to their investment in Anthropic. They're just a bunch of Stanford grads that went to ChatGPT. They left ChatGPT, the #1 bullet point. They started their own company, and Silicon Valley is throwing money at them left and right. Google put in $2 billion, Amazon put in $8 billion, and they're using that for Alexa and for Google stuff. And Facebook's got their own large language model called Llama. Okay, very powerful. I mean, these aren't second tier. They all are almost as capable, if not as capable, of ChatGPT. Apple doesn't, they're a little behind the, behind the ChatGPTs and the rest right now. In fact, they cut a contract with ChatGPT. When you hear the new iPhone has, as Snoop Dogg says, with Apple, artificial intelligence. Not really, Snoopster. Not really. Not really. Apple's got a contract with ChatGPT, but they don't have the full ChatGPT baked into the iPhone yet. They're a little bit behind. I put Intel and NVIDIA on there. NVIDIA is the most valuable corporation in the world. Like, wait a minute. NVIDIA isn't Apple, isn't Amazon. What about Tesla? Not anymore. NVIDIA has the chips that run artificial intelligence. NVIDIA used to be in the video gaming world. I know NVIDIA because I used to use PCs and build them out a little bit. And you wanted an NVIDIA chip because you can get the best gaming with the NVIDIA chip. Well, the same kind of calculus and same kind of strategies in designing a microchip that are used in gaming helped NVIDIA make the most robust chips for artificial intelligence. They're the most valuable corporation in the world. It used to be Intel inside. Oh, this laptop is Intel. They make chips too. And they're not as valuable as they used to be. They got crushed by NVIDIA. They're still out there, they're recovering. But that's the world, the real world of artificial intelligence. Right now, I have 10 minutes to play around with this, and we're gonna write a short story about Chuck Festa. So I don't know if he's out of the room or back in the room, but it doesn't really matter. There he goes. So the way that these things work, and on the screen now, Chuck, can you see a thing called DAL-E on the top, a little box inside my PowerPoint?
Wait a minute. I don't see it, Joe. Where am I looking? I see you moving around. It's covered. Yes.
Here.
I think it's very small. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Stand by. So this is the ChatGPT client. And the key to getting good outcomes is the prompt. And you could refine the prompt. Okay. I'm going to show you on top here what I did for Freddie Artis's daughter last night on the bus. I'll highlight it. Using the initials KA, create a logo for a business whose primary function is providing, I don't know how to say that word, charcuterie?
Charcuterie board.
Charcuterie. Thank you, Chuck.
I know that one well, Joe.
Thank you.
Cheese, meats, and crackers on a board.
Exactly. And that's what Freddie's daughter is doing. So using the initials KA, create a logo for a business whose primary function is providing charcuterie boards to affluent members of the community. Make it in a style that is modern, but with an easily recognizable font. Well, it came up with these two. You see this? I think it's a glass of bourbon over there, the one on the left where my mouse is moving. It's not very delicate. Doesn't have the feminine touch I think that's necessary. Looks kind of mannish, a little bit masculine. So then I refined it. Again, you got to work on the prompt, right? I treat it like a person. Those are great. I gave it a little praise, Give me 2 more examples in pastel colors without the black letter font. So I refined it a little, and you can do that. You can do that by giving it more information. And what I did was we settled on this one, which I think is pretty cool, right? So Caitlin said, oh, I like the last one. And guess what? We don't have to pay anybody. We're not stealing from anybody. Now, some would argue that all the content was learned by the quadrillions of things on the internet. Well, come on, man. Come on. Nobody made this particular thing. So I don't think there's a copyright issue either. And Caitlin can use this or any one of them. I did it in about 60 seconds. So now I'm going to send a message to ChatGPT. And I'm going to have to type it because I don't know if I could use my microphone. Let's see. No, that's not it. Stand by. Write a short story where Chuck the lawyer is hired by Seton Hall University to take over the program and recruit all of the players. Once Chuck is in charge and is the director of the legal department, the team spends 2 years getting better, and Chuck is adored by the fan base in 2027.
I can make it better in 1 year.
It's working. Chuck Douglas was no ordinary lawyer, known in the legal community for his cunning, charisma, and ability to turn impossible causes into victories. Chuck was a legend. But when Seton Hall University made him an offer to join their legal department as director, it wasn't just for his legal acumen. They had something bigger in mind. The university's basketball program, once a powerhouse, has fallen into obscurity. Attendance was dwindling. Alumni were losing faith. Chuck had a meeting. Let's go to the end here. Oh, he built a foul. Oh my God, look how long this story is. How about this? One real quick one. Write a short poem about Chuck the basketball genius. Chuck the lawyer, sharp and wise, took on hoops with keen, sharp eyes, contracts, clauses, and courtly flair. Now ruled the hardwood loud and rare. Seton Hall, he boldly declared, will rise again if dreams are shared. All right, enough silliness here. Enough silliness. Let's close that out.
I love it.
Right? Now, what about the law? I represented a religious group in northern Passaic County, actually northern Morris County, that I think about it. And they were a small ecumenical Protestant denomination, maybe pushing 100 members. And they wanted policies and procedures on sexual harassment. As many of you know, my experience was in sexual violence on children and women and all that stuff. So, you know, I have some information in here, but I didn't feel like writing policies and procedures and, you know, and making it look like a, you know, something that's refined and has, you know, Roman numeral ones and subcategories. So I punched something out. I used 4 prompts in a row, you know, and then I refined it. And I says, no, I wanted to say this, and I say that, and it pumped out something that was about 10 pages. But then I used oversight. I went back in, I dug into it. I read a bunch of articles. I looked at what I know about this stuff, and then I refined it. So it was a good start. So we had some fun with ChatGPT, but obviously it has more serious uses, and that's what we're here to talk about. We want to make sure that you don't run afoul of what the ethics of this new wonderful magic is. Well, what are the limits? You know, I've been talking about its positives, right? And we'll talk more about its positives later, but what are the limits? What are the minefields? Where can we go wrong? Should you even use it? I mean, when you hear some of the scary things it can do or how it can get it wrong, you might want to rethink it. I'm not suggesting that. I think it's wonderful and I will use it forever. But I will mind the lessons of using caution and oversight and being smart about it, okay? The promise of AI has its limits. These new chatbots and similar AI uses come with baggage. They often don't distinguish between fact and fiction, okay? They call that hallucination. There's a few words for it, but it's all the same thing. It hallucinates. What does that mean? For example, I asked it a question about boxing, and ChatGPT told me, actually, I think it was Copilot, that Jack Johnson defeated Rocky Marciano. They were in 2 different eras. It's totally made up. It's 100% wrong. And I'm going, wait a minute, Jack Johnson was from the early 1900s. He was a turn-of-the-century boxer. Rocky Marciano was in the 40s and 50s, I think. They couldn't have possibly had a fight. But the AI told me they did. And Jack Johnson prevailed. And it had where the stadium was. It hallucinated. Dangerous. What's the remedy for hallucination? Oversight. If you use this to write a legal brief and don't dig into the brief and follow up and read the cases and reread it and even have a colleague at your office read it, then you are flirting with disaster, because it can hallucinate. It's not that common. I don't want to overstate it, but it happens. Then you don't want to be the guy who, you know, submitted the brief with the fake case, or the lawyer that was on Zoom who had the cat hat on because his daughter was using Zoom. You know, learn the technology before you use it a little bit, right? It can also generate language that's biased against women and people of color. It's getting better at that. The reason in part was, what did it learn on? What was the large language model based on? Well, a lot of it was based upon the writings of white people and pictures of white people. And, you know, you need to give it the content so that it has a diverse foundation to make these decisions. The thing you train it on has to be diverse. And in the beginning, you know, naysayers were going, oh, look at this, look at that. And they were right. It was biased against women in some aspects, no doubt about it. And it was biased against people of color, no doubt about it. One example was an AI tool that judges were using to determine flight risk. And it seemed clever, but the defendants found that there was a disparity to people who were of marginal means, people who were living in poverty, and people of color. Okay, why? Because in part it relied on zip codes from Black communities, you know, so it had to be fixed, you know, not something judges should apply mechanically. In another case, Amazon was trying to hire people with an algorithm and review the resumes. It found that the algorithm was biased against women for certain technical positions because it learned about the attributes of people that Amazon wanted to hire that were really good, but they were all mostly men. because mostly men were in that field, you know, in the science and technology and math. That's changing dramatically now. But, you know, in the halls of Amazon, you had mostly men, and it studied, you know, what does it learn? It learns these large language models learn from content. If the content's bad, you get bad outcomes. Junk in, junk out. A third case, researchers found gender and skin type bias using facial recognition programs. It had a 0.8% error rate for light-skinned men and almost 1/3 error rate, 34 point, actually more than 1/3 for dark-skinned women. So, you know, this stuff is not perfect for sure. Be careful. It can be reasonably argued that AI must be regulated when people's liberties are at stake. So judges making detention hearing decisions, you know, not really a good place for AI right now. It might be a good start. I don't know what they're learning in Glen Point or wherever they're learning today.
Newark.
Where are they studying?
Somewhere in Newark, by Newark Airport, I believe, some hotel over there.
There you go. Okay, right by the where Seton Hall place. In the past decade, engineers, scholars, and whistleblowers and journalists have repeatedly documented AI's failures. One of the most controversial right now is you know, when you're on Facebook, let's say, or you go on Amazon to buy something, isn't it funny how Amazon knows, oh, you bought a pair of glasses. You might like this ad from Warby Parker. Or how about these Ray-Ban Meta glasses that have artificial intelligence built into them? You might like that. Why? Because an algorithm, artificial intelligence said, you like glasses, chunky glasses, Ray-Ban S glass, whatever it is, AI is built into the way we shop and especially into social media. And now some of the social media feeds are under scrutiny because it can steer toxic content towards vulnerable teenagers. Eating disorders have been tied to algorithms and AI and things like that. Some of these silly challenges, they're not silly, they're dangerous. These challenges where kids were eating cinnamon and by the handful, very dangerous. And the more you look at them, the more you get them. And then the kids, it becomes self-validating. The kids think that the trend and the challenge is more popular than it is, but maybe it's 10,000 people in a world of billions. So it can be scary, right? Military drones don't have a moral compass. So AI sending missiles can kill people that aren't war combatants. So got to be careful. Privacy is a big deal. Fake documents and phishing emails can be made to appear flawless. Now, listen, if you want to make a fake hospital report, you can use PowerPoint. In 1998, you know, there was a case where I think it was Union County or one of the counties, when I was a prosecutor, a lot of people don't know this. You're allowed to lie to suspects who are under interrogation in New Jersey, and you still are allowed to lie. You can claim that there's DNA when there's not. When you're doing a custodial interrogation, you can tell the target of the custodial interrogation that there are eyewitnesses. So you have pretty much carte blanche to lie in New Jersey, but there are limits. And someone came up with a fake medical report in New Jersey, and the Supreme Court said, wait a minute. Once you manufacture evidence, you know, so I suspect this distinction was between lying and creating manufactured evidence. It was a fake hospital report, I think in the 1990s or the mid-2000s. Well, now you can make that with extreme precision using AI, and it looks really, really real. So fake documents, you know, it's dangerous, this AI stuff, if it's used for harm. But doesn't any great technology have the potential for misuse? You know, we'd still be using candles and living in caves if we didn't embrace the latest technologies, or torches, I should say. So what about AI in the legal context? So I told you some of the horribles, and we'll hear about some other possible pitfalls in a moment. But what can we do in the legal context? I touched upon a couple of them. I told you about when I represented that church group up in Morris County. You know, I came up with a beautiful, I was really impressed, and I bow to AI for helping me tremendously. And I had to put the finishing touches on it, but I made a great policies and procedures, which will help me the next time I do a policies and procedures. I've done about 4 or 5 of them. But there's far more things you can do as a lawyer. So I'll tell you what you can do, and I'll tell you what to be careful about when doing these things. You know, the Bar Association gave me a beautiful list. You know, I'm like, I kind of know what you can do with this AI stuff, but You know what? Maybe it's written down somewhere, and I'm looking in Arizona, I'm looking in New Jersey, I'm looking in Pennsylvania at different law review articles and stuff on the internet and, on my Westlaw at Montclair State. And then I read the New Jersey State Bar Association Task Force on Artificial Intelligence. You're going to want to download that and put it in your, one of your folders, whether it's virtual or a real world folder. If you're going to use this stuff, take a look at this. It's in the resources, the citation. I'll get to it at the end again, and I gave it to you at the beginning. But in May this year, 2024, our Bar Association came up with a set of preliminary recommendations. All the recommendations have the modifier preliminary. Why? Because we're in a new world here, man. This stuff is barely 2 years old. This report includes the collaborative efforts and conclusions of the New Jersey State Bar Association's member task force on artificial intelligence in the law. So this is the intro to it. It goes over, this slide goes over what's in that thing. When you look at that document, it speaks for itself. But what they did do that's very useful is they gave you a list of things you can use AI for. They didn't say don't do it. It's permissive. How about that? It's permissive. And they didn't focus on the dangers. It's a very positive report. So I give them kudos for not spooking, the legal community. So what did the state bar say? These 27 people who thought about this, reflected, exchanged ideas, and wrote this manifesto. Well, you can use it for document drafting, right? I just did policies and procedures. The other day, the state parole board told me, oh, we need a waiver. I said, I want a report that this sex offender had done so that he can live in the house with his grandchildren. He was convicted 30 years ago. And they go, we can't give that to you. We need a waiver. So I went on ChatGPT. I said, make me a waiver of HIPAA and confidentiality, the common law confidentiality, statutory confidentiality, right? And HIPAA. I said, put all that stuff in there because confidentiality arises from multiple sources in New Jersey, as in many states. HIPAA is a federal statute. There are privacy laws in New Jersey, right? And there's common law privacy and confidentiality. I said, stick it all in there. They punched it out. I put in another prompt. I tweaked it a little. Boom, I had a beautiful confidentiality waiver. But guess what? It was like 2.5 pages. I said, make it more succinct. And it did. I used it. It didn't give me what I needed, but not because it wasn't a good document. So you can draft documents, HIPAA waivers, waivers of confidentiality, fee arrangements. Now, I'm not recommending you do fee arrangements because usually your malpractice insurance wants to review those things. But anything you need, if you need to come up with a document, you're selling a car to somebody, give me a contract for sale of an automobile in New Jersey that covers all of the legal bases for vulnerability, whatever, come up with something. So document drafting. Legal research. I'd be careful with that. I used it a little bit, legal research, but it's going to get better and better. It can facilitate faster and more comprehensive legal research by analyzing vast amounts of case law, statutes, and other legal documents. AI-driven analytics may uncover insights you didn't think of that would elude manual review and enhance the quality and depth of your legal analysis. True that, as they say, for sure. It is a complement. You need to work. AI is your paralegal, man. You and him or her, you work together, and then you review their work, and you will come up with stuff you couldn't possibly come up with on your own. Trust me. Trust me. Research can be very valuable. I'll tell you what, there was a doctor. I was retained by a hospital group in Central Jersey to review hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of pages of depositions from, I think, 35 plaintiffs. His name was Dr. Riccardo Cruciani, and he was raping patients during exams. And he wound up confessing he was quite guilty. Hospitals were looking to avoid legal liability for knowing or should have known. So I was brought in to decide whether they knew or should have known as an expert on sex crimes investigations and that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at thousands and thousands of pages of depositions. There were certain words I was looking for. Told me, I knew, opened the door, knocked on the door, crying person. I put in all the keywords in these thousands and thousands and thousands of pages, and I came up with highlighted sections where those keywords were. Now, you can do that with PDF search, but AI does a better job because it understands like a human does. Now, did I still have to go through those documents? Yes, but I went through them in a different way. So research is just the beginning. I can't even begin to imagine how research is going to be helped. Writing a letter. It writes letters better than you do. Trust me, try it. Download ChatGPT. You write a letter, and then you tell it to write a letter. Same content. It will be better than you. Not better than Chuck Festa, because he's one of the better letter writers in North Jersey, but better than me and you. Trust me. General case preparation. AI and generative AI technologies will eventually offer valuable support in case prep, from predictive analytics for case outcomes to organizing and summarizing voluminous evidence. That's what I did, right? Listen, I'm not in big law. I'm not in Roseland or Newark, and there's 1,000 lawyers there or 200 lawyers. Those folks, they have cases where they used to have shopping carts full of data, and they had to put the young lawyers in the basement, right? Going over these things word for word. They got out of law school, they went to top shelf law schools, Columbia, Stanford, Harvard, but they're in the bottom of big law and they're reading these things. Now, you don't need these kids. You can start the process of case prep and analyzing voluminous evidence through AI. And as really smart people begin to calibrate these tools so that they are sold to big law, right? Big law buys them, and then they are more focused and do a much, much better job. In 5 years, you will rarely need a human, if earlier than that, probably, to review voluminous evidence, because it can do it better than you can ever imagine. Right now, we're still learning, but it does an amazing job as we speak. You want to be careful about using AI to fabricate evidence and data. We'll talk about the pitfalls in a little bit. But that it can create counterfeit evidence. You've seen these realistic videos where Donald Trump and the Pope are, maybe you haven't seen them. They're all over social media where Donald Trump is in a fight with the police and they can't hold me down. And, the Pope is on safari, and, Elon Musk is debating Kanye West. And I'm like, did this really happen? Was this on a TV show? You can't tell the difference when Kanye West is debating Elon Musk. Joe Montana. There are photorealistic, video realistic videos out there where Jeff Bezos is talking about stuff. The CEO, former CEO, and now the, still the guiding light of Amazon.com, is giving you business advice. And I'm like, Bezos, why would he do that? And I'm looking at, wait a minute, AI made that. Never mind the language, just the narratives, just the fake news that's out there, or fake information that's spread virally that looks real. So, that's something to think about. And for whatever reason, the task force put a negative in the middle of all these positives. I guess it's that important, right? Because all this stuff is positive. A discovery tool, right? One thing that's happening now is, and I predicted this in 2011, 2010 in my old office. I said, eventually, video is going to take over everything. My argument was to my old office, the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office, was we need every municipality in the county, everyone who uses video to record, to use the same system, because they were using different proprietary systems. So they didn't talk to each other. Lawyers couldn't open them. If I had a nickel for every defense lawyer, I can't open your video. It never really gained traction for whatever reasons. But the bottom line is artificial intelligence can help us with those kind of things. It can help discovery efficiency. And eventually, as I predicted back then, we gave up our privacy, not as George Orwell predicted, to Big Brother or the government. We sold our privacy to Google, and to Amazon, and to all of these tools that say, give us all your information, allow us to scrape what you do, allow us to look at what you do every day, and we'll give you free email. We'll give you free searches. We'll give you free social media. So we gave away our privacy for free stuff, not Orwell's Big Brother, us. And similarly, we have all these videos now, thousands of videos. They videoed the streets. We have Ring. We have videos in police stations. We have people have 9, 10 videos in their house. I caught a new client the other day. He's got 9 videos in his house. And I had to look him in the eye. I go, what are you using those videos for? Oh, no, I'm afraid of this, that, and the other thing. The bottom line is defense lawyers, civil lawyers, we're getting so much video content. I get it all transcribed by AI. I cannot watch videos in real time. If you catch a case with 7 witnesses, a defense lawyer, criminal defense lawyer, 7 witnesses, you can have 7 hours of video. Who's got 7 hours? You could take the video, upload it to rev.com. They use AI. It's 90% accurate. And if you want a human to do it, you can send it out for human transcription. It's $1.50 a page. I'm not talking about the old school transcribers, the one we're used to. I'm talking about automated AI. So you get 7, 8 videos, you just dump the videos in the sky, and the AI transcribes it for you. And now you can read the darn thing, okay? So very important. I use it now, and I don't watch videos unless I have to. Now, here's the thing about oversight. The AI transcriptions don't catch the affect, the demeanor, the body language of the people. You're going to have to do that eventually. But in the beginning, when you're just making an application for, in a detention hearing, you're not watching 7 hours. You can read the things real quick. But obviously, as things get more involved, you got to watch the video, at least some of it, or the important parts, to look at body language, affect, especially if it's a Miranda, right? It's sometimes not what we say, it's how we say it. The police say, well, do I need a lawyer? That's up to you. Actually in New Jersey, if you ask for a lawyer, everything has to stop. But in the federal courts, if you ask for a lawyer, they're allowed to go, what do you want to do? Some people like lawyers, some people don't. So on paper, that might look very differently than, if 2 cops are standing there with their guns at their side. Something to think about. But for now, getting transcripts for basically free, instead of watching videos, sign me up, man. Trial prep tools, right? Case management software. I don't know a lot about big law, but big law uses case management software. Even smaller firms use that. AI can be integrated into that. It can be very helpful. The Bar Association envisions a future in number 10 at the bottom where AI can be used at trial. And I don't know how many cases I tried. I love being a prosecutor, and I love being a prosecutor that got to try cases. As a defense lawyer, you can't try cases anymore. Half of the laws is life in prison. How the heck do you try a case when the outcome is life in prison? Unless the guy's innocent or he really wants a trial. And then I'll get to try a case, I guess. But that hasn't happened yet. I haven't had an innocent guy, and I haven't had a case that really deserves to go to trial. But if I was going to trial, you can use this in the future, or maybe even now, to prep, categorize evidence, put evidence in order. I used to struggle to find the exhibit list, organize the exhibit list. Now I could just take quick notes and go, make me an exhibit list. Put a priority on physical evidence. Put a priority on this, So that's just me thinking. You can't even imagine how AI would assist in trials. And that's just my little 2-week trial in the criminal courts. I think the longest trial I had was 2.5 months. But some of these big law cases go on for years. Pretrial motions go on for years. So AI can be very helpful. That's the world that our Bar Association said is coming faster than we think. So the one thing I said to you was oversight. The Bar Association calls it substituted judgment, okay? If you write anything down from my presentation today, write down substituted judgment. What do they mean by that? When you get the AI to do the thing you want it to do, make a policies and procedures, make a HIPAA waiver, okay? Draw a contract for sale of a car, then read the darn thing, do independent research. Don't let AI be the sole arbiter of what the thing is. Don't let it substitute its judgment for yours. You are the final arbiter of what the thing is or looks like, or whether it's legitimate or not. We're not in a world yet, and I'm telling you, I can't imagine we will ever be in a world because life is full of so much nuance. My prediction is it's not going to happen in my lifetime, maybe when I'm long dead, but my prediction is in my lifetime, or even some of the younger people's lifetimes, AI will never be better than us. And I don't think it ever will be. I think that the human cognitive ability is the thing that fuels AI. So how could it ever be AI? How could AI ever be better than us? So don't let AI be the final arbiter. Never let it substitute your judgment. Significant concern arises when attorneys rely on AI to replace their judgment. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. You do it, you use it for what it's worth, and then review, and review. Imagine, I put at the bottom, paralegal intern analogy. Imagine it's an intern. I used to have interns for my whole career. Sometimes I had paralegals. I had them do the work. They were smarter than me, some of these kids, much smarter. They went to top schools, especially during the recession. They would come and work at the prosecutor's office. I'd give them really important things to do, and I'd be amazed at how good it was. But I would read it. I would double check it. And even the Columbia kids, okay? Even the Columbia kids made mistakes. But it was expect it. Expect that AI needs your review. Imagine it's a paralegal, but it's a little cheaper, right? It's a little less expensive than a paralegal. What can go wrong? How can you get jacked up for malpractice? Well, I just told you, failure to review AI critically. See this? It says lawyers must disclose AI to clients. In New Jersey, we don't have to do that. I'll show you in a moment. This is from a federal law review article. Failing to get informed consent might be negligence. Now, it might be negligence, but the Supreme Court in their guidelines says you don't have to tell your client that you use AI. Using AI might compromise data confidentiality, something to think about. You're supposed to maintain competence. We'll talk about that in a minute. There could be bias. We talked about before. People of color may be excluded. Women might be biased against. You have to be careful. If the content that's generated somehow results in bias against your client or erroneous analysis because you relied on that and you missed something, you could be held accountable. If you get some company to do the AI stuff, you can get in trouble by outsourcing it to an incompetent entity. Forgetting about that, we will finish up with what did the Supreme Court say in 2024? Because the Supreme Court did a nice job. They issued their guidelines. Joe Montana in 2024, January, based upon the rules of professional conduct. Leave it to the Supreme Court to say, let's just get the RPC out and we'll figure out what we're supposed to do. You know, what do we need to be mindful of with this AI? Let's use the existing paradigm. Let's use the model for evaluating ethics in New Jersey and apply artificial intelligence to it. So I suspect Justice Rabner would say to you, nothing's really changed, lawyers. It's just the manner in which we get stuff and how we give stuff to the judge, right? Well, we have to be accurate and truthful. You have to worry about hallucinations, right? You have to verify AI-generated information, okay? Honesty and candor, okay? That's one that's been there for 50 years. You know, you have to remain responsible for the validity of your briefs and legal submissions, including those that use AI. You can't submit fake, false, or misleading content, no doubt about that. So here's a typical RPC rule, honesty, candor, and communication, where you can fit AI into it rather easily. Confidentiality, you have to be careful using AI, okay? If you're outsourcing it, like to rev.com, which I do, I checked on their encrypted transmission protocols, which they are encrypted, and their duties of confidentiality, right? So you have to maintain confidentiality for your clients. So that's something to be mindful of. You know, it can be rather easy sometimes to lose track of confidentiality when you're using AI. RPC says you have to avoid misconduct, which includes dishonesty. You don't want to make fake evidence, right? No. Who would do that? But you can. An unscrupulous person would. Deceit, misrepresentation, and maybe misleading a little bit. You know what? The AI says this. I don't know that that's exactly right, but I'll show that to my client. No. Misconduct prevention. Be careful. Oversight, right? The one word that I said, you can't do this stuff and not review it. Supreme Court, they spent the whole paragraph talking about that rule. Make sure you learn the rule on your own. It's in here. It's in the PowerPoints. Excuse me, I haven't memorized these rules. This is, and it's also in my resources at the end, this is from the New Jersey Supreme Court's guidelines. And it's not that long. They did a nice job, Rabner and Grant. Very nice job. And here's the really cool part. This is what the Supreme Court wrote at the end. What the guidelines do not require. They do not require attorneys to disclose the use of AI in legal proceedings, arguments, or evidence. This may vary, however, depending upon the facts and circumstances of each individual case. The preliminary guidelines do not impose an affirmative obligation on lawyers to tell clients every time they use AI. Remember, the federal, it's not a rule. The law review article I quoted earlier said, oh, it's a confidentiality issue. It could be legal malpractice, and it could be. But the Supreme Court says you don't have to tell every client that you use ChatGPT to look up a case, you know, unless the client asks, do you use AI? Or you can't make an informed decision. That is, the client can't make an informed decision without knowing that the lawyer's using AI. So that's kind of interesting. that the courts have done that. Karen's going to give us the secret code right now. So wake up. I know I've been boring you, but wake up, as Jim Morrison said in, I don't know what it was, Strange Days.
Okay, everyone, the code is NI 26.
A Anthony, iPhone 26, AI 26.
And I'll also put that in the chat.
So we have a little bit of time now. I'm going to show you the resources. I'm going to go to page 2 here. Take a look at this. If you want to mess around with AI in your practice, make sure you have these 3 things. These are New Jersey focused from our colleagues down in Trenton and New Brunswick. You got Justice Rabiner and Glenn Grant. We all know Judge Grant. He's a geek like me. Notice to the bar on legal practice guidelines, preliminary guidelines on AI. That's from January 24. I just quoted from that. That's the New Jersey Supreme Court. Eisenstein, Murkowski, and Spangler, they're with the State Bar, or they've been asked by the State Bar to chair a panel where there was 24 other people, and they issued in May. If you Google that, there's a beautiful document that's 20 or 30 pages about their recommendations. And I told you that the judiciary, ahead of the training by Newark Airport that's going on right now, the judges' school, if you will, they issued their guidance for the judges on the importance of artificial intelligence. I would make a note of that as well. And I have 5 minutes before we can end this, Karen, because if we end it before the 5 minutes is up, then we will run afoul of the rules. We will run afoul of the rules. So anybody got any stories? Anybody use artificial intelligence? Case scenario, questions about its use? Hang in there for 5 more minutes, or actually 4, and then you get your 1.2 credits or whatever the heck it is, 1 credit. Yes, just speak out. I can't see who that is.
Oh, Joe, I have a question. It's Natalie Candela. How are you?
Natalie, how are you?
You were talking before. I'm very familiar with ChatGPT, but I'm not familiar with the, I guess, ChatGPT for legal. What's the difference? Have you used both?
Yes, that's a great question, Natalie. Thank you. I've not used the both. The ChatGPT for lawyers is a high-end product. It's probably, beyond my pay grade. I don't know that I can afford it. I'm sure there's a free version, and that's a great question. I ought to look into that. But if you ever use naturally speaking, I use voice to text for a decade now. Dragons, because I can't touch type. I didn't learn that. They had one for lawyers that had legal terms in it. And they had one for doctors that has doctor terms in it. And they had the one for regular people. I used the regular one because it was a lot cheaper. So Natalie, I believe ChatGPT for lawyers is a high-end for pay, you have to buy it product. And I suspect that it's been trained on, whatever Westlaw and LexisNexis has been trained on, all the court cases, all the law review articles. It's probably amazing. And now you're making me want to pay for it. So I'm going to pay for it for 1 month to figure it out. But it's going to be great, I predict. We ought to try it out.
Okay.
That answer your question?
Yes.
Someone else, you got to have questions. I'm telling you, you're gonna be a lot more efficient as an attorney. See, everybody's cameras off. I don't even know if they're here.
Hey, Joe, I have a question. Who, on that fictitious Seton Hall guy named Chuck, who wrote that poem?
Are you seriously asking that question?
I am.
I'll tell you who wrote that poem. Someone that you and I will never meet. That was a robot. It's not even a robot. It is the acquired language and expressions of the large language model. It was
Well, exactly my point. So was that an AI or a human generated?
Yes. You can.
There was my point. Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay. I thought
you get it? You missed that.
I did get it. See, I acted like AI. I missed your nuance.
So it was actually well written by AI.
Yes, and I guess you could publish it. Some would argue that, I guess you could publish that and claim it as your own. You created the prompt. The key's in the prompt. Your first prompt should be good, but you can always refine it. You have to ask it. I want policies and procedures for a Protestant group of 100 people in Northwest New Jersey. It gives you something. I want it where there's only 5 administrative personnel, updated. Then and it knows what it remembers what you asked it. It remembers everything in the sequence of questions. It doesn't forget your original prompt. Then you say, I want it 10 pages or less. So the prompts are key. Nestor, you got any questions?
Not yet. I've been trying to
Okay.
figure something out, but
Okay.
I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, no, we got a minute or two. Okay, you know what, Karen? I am going to, before we pack up, I'm going to copy right now the resources. And if you could put them in the chat client, then people can just copy and paste, and then we'll finish up.
Okay. And Joe, if you can give me a copy of the PowerPoint, I can also forward a copy of notes of that PowerPoint to all the attendees.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Stand by. Chat. Come on, chat. Open up.
Joe, it's Sumana. I have a quick question. My camera's off, but I'm here. How did you choose which one you prefer to go with? It seems like you tried out a bunch of them.
Another great question. Give me a second, Sumana. Just 1 second.
Okay.
That's a great question. Okay. In the chat client are the resources I relied upon. Where's this not? Can't see Sumana. Here we go. So Sumana, what I did was I started with ChatGPT because that's the one everybody was talking about, and I played around with that. And if I had to recommend one, I would recommend ChatGPT because that's the one that had a head start on everybody. Although there were smart people in all the universities figuring this out for nearly a decade, but it never really came to fruition until about 2 years ago when, you know, just regular people got turned on to it. And in my use scenario, ChatGPT seems to be the most robust, but, you know, I don't have any empirical support for that. I didn't compare prompts. I would start with that. It's free. You can download it on your iPhone or your Google phone. You can put it on your MacBook, put it on your laptop, your PC, whatever, your Windows box. And they're building it into the new Windows computers because Microsoft calls ChatGPT Copilot. Microsoft owns part of ChatGPT, and they're integrating it into Bing. Bing is their search engine. That's a far distant second to Google search. So it's in there, but I like ChatGPT. Copilot works good too. What I do is you can pay $20 on your iPhone a month. If you're doing a big project, pay the $20 and cancel it immediately. You get it for 30 days and you get the best AI in the world. ChatGPT 4. Lowercase o. I don't know why they do it that way. There was 4.0, then there's 4. Lowercase o. Copilot works great. There's a couple other ones. I didn't show you DALL-E. If people are hanging on, DALL-E is so much fun. And we'll end with this. I know it's a little late. You all can log off if you want, but let me show you how DALL-E works. It is so much fun. Let me go back to right here. Slideshow from current slide. ChatGPT also owns this thing called DALL-E. And what it does is create images, right? So DALL-E. Stand by. Chuck the lawyer invented a surfboard that is able to provide digital advertising as he surfs on the shores of South Beach, Miami. Give me a picture of Chuck surfing with his digital surfboard carrying the scales of justice. Make him have brown hair and blue eyes. Stand by.
I think you broke the internet.
This is so creepy.
There he is. He's not as handsome as you, Chuck.
So it looks like me.
See the ads? There, see the hotels from South Beach in the background? Now it's silly. There's a million silly things you can do. But I showed you the logo I did for Freddie Horace's daughter. You can do whatever you want with this thing. You can even see, here's my HIPAA waiver. I am an attorney representing a client who's on parole. While on parole, he was required to go to a psychologist who conducted a risk assessment evaluation, draft a waiver of confidentiality, including HIPAA waiver, for my client to sign so that I can receive a copy of that psychological evaluation. And then it spit out this thing. And then I asked another prompt. What else did I look up? Presidential immunity, radar gun calibration. How often do radar guns have to be calibrated in order for results to be admissible in court? For the great Bob Artis, who has a speeding ticket. In New Jersey, if a third-degree offender makes application for pretrial intervention and the director of PTI approves and accepts the defendant into PTI, does the prosecutor have an opportunity to object? I should know this like the back of my hand because I was the objector most of my life. But I didn't want to make sure nothing changed, you know? So there's a lot of, here's a picture. I did some attorney, my prompt was an attorney boxing match and judges in the corner with a bucket just to show it off as I was playing with it. So let's get out of there and end this thing because you're not getting any credit for me babbling away. Okay, Karen and everybody, thank you for coming. You're welcome, Natalie. Good to see you. Good to see everybody here. Hopefully you have a great holiday and a great Thanksgiving. Let's not forget that on the 11th, we have our friend from Bergen County, Warren Sutnick, coming. Warren Sutnick's coming. Chuck Fest is the moderator. Judge Damiano will be in the house. Hisham Masri will be in the house. We're going to talk about the new, not that new anymore, but the ability to plea bargain drunk driving cases, you know, how to really follow the rules. We kind of know that that was happening perhaps informally over the years, but now it's been countenanced by the courts. So on the 11th of December, we're going to have that program on the new plea bargaining in the municipal courts, DWI. Mr. Fest will be introducing the members of that panel. And then on the 18th, my colleague Sue Curcio is coming up virtually from Atlanta County, former chief of the Atlanta County Prosecutor's Office. She is now one of the top lawyers defending juveniles in New Jersey. Her caseload is almost exclusively children who murder, juvenile delinquents who are charged with homicide. And she's going to look at serious homicide cases and robberies and violence committed by juveniles and the impact of a lack of respect for diversity, inclusion, and DEI stuff and equity. So you need those credits, the DEI stuff. We'll offer them to you on the 18th. Karen?
Great. Thank you so much, Joe. Great program. Really great program. Thank you.
Great job, Joe.
Thank you. Really good.
Everybody, happy Thanksgiving.
Same
Thanks
to
so
you.
much, Joe. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy
You too,
Thanksgiving.
everybody.